Welcome to the Hate Watchers breakdown and review for Star Wars Andor Episode 4, named Aldhani. Is Andor still a great watch? Let's jump right into the breakdown and find out. Spoilers ahead. We pick up where we left off with Andor, wounded, escaping on Luthen Rael's ship. Luthen wants Andor to help with something on Aldhani. Cassian is reluctant and wants answers, so Luthen gets him drunk so he'll stop asking questions. Andor, still hesitant, insists Luthen doesn't know him and doesn't know what he wants. He then lies about his military record, and Luthen calls him out.
You came in as a cook.
This spy thriller turns into a heist movie as Luthen convinces Andor to help him steal big money from an Imperial garrison. We journey to Coruscant just in time to catch Miss Stick-in-Her-Butt showing up to work at the Imperial Security Bureau. Inside the Bureau, some officers give the relevant reports on their sectors, and this old guy starts talking about germs. Once they've arrived on Aldhani, Cassian is in need of an undercover identity and decides to become a crackhead named Clem. Luthen grabs his trusty binoculars and starts creeping on a chick. Clearly this is not his first time. He then gives Andor a kyber crystal because Disney is obsessed with that shit. But then, out of nowhere, he name drops the Rakata.
Celebrates the uprising against the Rakatan invaders.
The Rakata Empire is a big part of the history of Star Wars lore that were almost completely wiped out when Disney created their new canon. There's been some half-assed, backpedaled references to the Rakata since then, but this is by far the biggest canonization of them to date. Luthen then immediately realizes he fucked up.
I want it back.
He meets with this woman Vel to convince her to take Andor in for their job, and Andor's sneaky ass gets called out by Luthen's security droid. Luthen negotiates hard.
Look at me!
I think he's itching to get back to killing people. He whistles for Cassian, and he comes like a good boy. Who's a good boy? Deputy 2, the regional manager, and his buddies get chewed out by an ISB officer, and Morlana is now under total Imperial control. Vel and crackhead Clem go for a nice hike across Middle-earth instead of doing their jobs. Wearing their stereotypical reefer ponchos, the two are passing around a joint and discussing the job at hand when the fuzz rolls by and they hide. Miss Stick-in-Her-Butt, going by Deidre now, wants the magic mystery MacGuffin box from the previous episode and wants to move in on her coworker's territory. As he's approaching Coruscant, Luthen starts cross-dressing and turns into Mrs. Doubtfire. Jonesing hard, Vel and Clem dip into their emergency stash of drugs. They then run into one of their stoner friends sleeping. Then we see this guy with the ultra-futuristic space AK-47. I mean, even the sheep here have 6 horns. Even if you just threw 4 extra horns onto the AK, it would have at least been an attempt at making it look like it belongs in Star Wars. Crackhead Clem meets this merry band of tweakers. Former Deputy 2, the regional manager, is forced to move back in with his abusive mother. Clem's new friends are a tremendous influence on him as he moves up to heroin. Senator Mon Mothma makes her first appearance, stepping out of her Rolls Royce on her way to meet with Luthen. Luthen is posing as a businessman, more specifically an antiques dealer, and we see a set of Mandalorian armor because Disney is creatively bankrupt. Luthen takes her to the back to talk business. It turns out Mothma is moving money for Luthen, but the money is slowing down as the Empire's grip tightens. Luthen's cover must be as a bad businessman because he gives away some merchandise for free. Recovering from his heroin coma, Clem is awake. This guy is the crew's contact at the Imperial garrison, and he's not happy about having to deal with this group of strung-out druggies. Back in her mansion, Mon Mothma complains about a fancy dinner party that's been planned and rudely sends away the help. The crew goes over the plan with Legos, and they get excited about all the crack they can buy after the score. They ask Clem if he's in for another round of chasing the dragon.
Let's get to it.
The old guy tells Stick-in-Her-Butt to stop sticking her nose where it doesn't belong and to come with better evidence next time. One tweaker shows crackhead Clem how to use an iPad, but he's too high to even know where he is right now, and the episode comes to an end. We've reached the point in the video where we have to decide if this episode is a great watch or a hate watch. This episode took a step back from the highs of the previous one, but I would still consider it a great watch, especially for Star Wars fans. We got an inside look at the ISB, a fuller view of Mon Mothma's life and character, some fan service antiques, and a huge Rakata name drop. But this was a pretty slow filler episode that may be harder to enjoy for casual or non-Star Wars fans. It does, however, give us more time to see and learn about characters, and that development usually pays off later as it gives us a reason to care about what's going on when the blaster bolts start flying. I have high hopes that the heist being planned in this episode will take up most of the next episode, so expect that one to be packed with the thrilling elements missing in this one. One other issue with this episode was Deputy Inspector Karn's 2 scenes. So he gets fired and has to move back in with his mother. What's next for him? He was so shell-shocked at the end of episode 3 that we have no idea if he's going to become even more hardline against quote-unquote rebels, or if he's been swayed against the Empire in some fashion. Or maybe he's going to collect unemployment and try and take up the guitar. The point is, we have no idea, and it feels like his 2 scenes in this episode were just included so we don't forget about him when the plot needs him to get involved again later. Oh, and one last thing. The sets looked incredible yet again. The inside of Luthen's ship, the ISB office, and pretty much all of the places on Coruscant were fantastic, and Mon Mothma's home was truly a standout. Thanks for joining us for this video. We'd really appreciate it if you would drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and comment on how you're feeling about Andor so far. Did this slower episode take away some of the excitement you were feeling after last week? Also remember to subscribe to the channel for weekly reviews of Andor as well as other current shows and movies. Thanks again, and we'll catch you on the next one.